And then I would either catch them at the tail end of the activity or during the day when they were just kind of coming through the territory. So it was I mean, as you could see, the analogy between my military conventional approach to the method and constantly escalating, and the terrorists coming in the night who knew the territory and could get in and out without being seen. I mean, the analogy is just uncanny to what we spoke about yesterday. So I decided yesterday...
Plus,
yes?
It's interesting to note that you were surprised at the degree of intelligence of their response.
Absolutely. That was amazing.
Because the assumption is that there is absolutely no intelligence to Osama bin Laden's acts.
Yes.
And that is a mistake. And that's all I'll say about it. Continue.
Okay. So yesterday, I said, this is it. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm not going to continue this. If they want to come and eat the last 2 fish, that'll be the end of it. And, that's it. It's going to be like, they were here first. I'm giving them free rein. Well, after I left...
You're allowing them now to fit in and be part of.
Well, I thought I was. And then yesterday, I came back to the house, and there they were, 3 little heads watching me. And I snapped. I went and got the gun and chased them off again and started plinking them in the butt with the BBs. And they climbed a tree, and one of them turned around and looked at me like 3 feet away. It was an easy shot right between the eyes, and looked at me, and I'm shining the flashlight at him, and he just stood there and looked with these eyes that said, "Are you going to harm me further?" And it was just, what could I do? I just stood there, and we looked at each other for about 30 seconds. And then he turned and walked down the tree and left. So the question is, what do you do about raccoons?
You might let go of your self-righteousness and feed them. That pond has been there for a long time, and the fish were there for a long time when they were not treated as enemies.
Any particular kind of dog food that you can recommend?
They are not particular.
Thank you. One other thing that happened that seems now, at the time it didn't seem related at all. I was in a local shopping center, and as I came out and got into my car, I was closing the door, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and dead center in the rearview mirror, an older lady was coming out of the shopping center and tripped over an edge of the concrete, and I could see her as in slow motion go down, fall on her shoulder, and her head kind of bumped the sidewalk. And without thinking, I was out of the car, and as I started out of the car, I looked again in the rearview mirror, and 2 or 3 people ran over and gave her assistance. And I thought, well, she's being helped. And so I closed the door and got in the car and drove off. And there was a disturbance in the center of my body, as if I was feeling her upsettedness. And then my ego, I guess, it was kicked in. You should have got out of the car. You should have went and helped her. You could have walked over there and touched her, and she could have been totally out of pain and all this. So could you tell me the dynamic there? What questions to come up are? Why did I see that happen? What was the appropriate response? As I was going down the road, what voice was it that I heard? Those kinds of things. I mean, was it a reperception? I hate to use the word should, but if I had reperceived the situation, would she have never fallen? those kinds of things now.
That is that's the ultimate of the healing, you might say, of the correction. But at the least, if you had caught yourself and had seen what your mind was doing, that you were not witnessing to the best in her, to the wholeness in her, then you could have immediately begun to witness to her divinity and the impossibility of there being negative effects to, I'm going to say, an apparent fall or an accident. This would have brought you back into your peace and would have allowed you to instantaneously be an agent for healing on her behalf, even though you continued to drive down the road. You see, the primary flaw was that the ego suggested to you that she was in the midst of suffering an accident, and then that she had suffered an accident. And that's where you lost the truth. Your ego said you could have gone back and dealt with this real accident and helped. But the real help would have been your immediately recognizing the need to witness for the truth of her, so that whether there seemed to be an accident or not, there would be no effects. So that instantaneously there would be no effects. No skinned knees, no bumped head, no aches and pains the next day. You see? There's a statement from the Christian Science textbook that says, "Stand porter at the door of thought, admitting only those thoughts which you would have bodily manifested, you will govern yourself harmoniously." Now, this is often interpreted to mean that if you think truer thoughts, even though you are still authorizing the thoughts, that this can be healing. But what you actually need to do is stand porter at the door of thought, and instead of admitting only those thoughts that you would have bodily manifested, you admit only the perspective, the vision that God gives you about the situation. In doing that, you will govern yourself harmoniously by not governing yourself inharmoniously. Do you see the difference? You see what I'm saying?
So is it like if I ask how to perceive the situation, I don't have to invent a reperception.
Exactly. If you invent it, that's like just changing your habit. What you want is the influx of God's perspective about His beloved son or daughter in whom He's well pleased, because He knows that His son or daughter is incapable of changing from being His son or daughter with a capacity to only have the birthright that is part of being His son or daughter. You see? So, practice these things. Practice saying, how would you have me see this? And practice it with things that aren't dire circumstances. Practice it with, what route to take to the grocery store. Practice it when you're standing in front of the canned goods and ask, should I just take the one off the front, or which can is appropriate? And it doesn't have to make sense to you why you're told the third can from the back on the left. Just do it, because it gives you practice in yielding out of your habit of either thoughtlessness or of over-controlling thought. You see? And if you make a habit of it in the little things, then when you see an elderly lady tripping, you will be able to almost instantaneously make a choice as to whether you're going to invent some correct thought to think or say, God, and you might not get any further than that before you get the clarity. You see?
So I had an immediate response to get out of the car. Already, my programming had kicked in.
Exactly.
It was ask.
That's
In other words,
correct.
you see something and you go, what's that about? And that's, it was amazing how the knee-jerk reaction was so strong. I was out of the car, I wasn't even doing it. My body was moving out of the car.
Yes, actually all of you have sub-costumes. And under certain circumstances, you pull out the Good Samaritan costume. And you behave the way Good Samaritans are supposed to behave. And sometimes a Good Samaritan does not respond. Because what's needed is not help, but a realization that's going to occur in the next moment to the individual as a result of no help. No external help, you see? But all of your costumes are nothing more than a garment of rules of behavior. And at the bottom line, although the rules of even the Good Samaritan costume, the rules of behavior for that costume seem to be for the benefit of others, it isn't. The costume is your defense. Every costume, even if it's the princess, even if it's the Good Samaritan, is a defense. And it keeps you from identifying with the individuality that you are that's underneath the costume, which is the beloved son or daughter of God, in whom God is well pleased, and whose birthright is available to be experienced. You see? Every costume you have, no matter how wonderful the character is of that costume, is still that which blocks you from waking up. And it blocks you from being able to be appropriate in the moment, in the largest context of all. So that what you do is God expressed, and therefore what you do is real, and therefore what you do is something that all of the brotherhood experiences and rejoices in, because it's a win-win situation, not just for you or the little old lady, but for the whole brotherhood, because God has been glorified. And if God is glorified, all that God is being is glorified, meaning the brotherhood. And so it is an experience of joy that is a universal experience. Sometimes each of you has moments of insanity as far as the ego is concerned, and you let in God's love. And a blessing occurs in your experience. And you don't realize that it's a blessing that's felt universally. Because what's real is always universal.
It is a little frightening to me to recognize how deeply ingrained these quote-unquote costumes are, and how we don't have even a bit of freedom available to us in our present state.
Oh, come on. These habits aren't controlling you.
I felt like I was controlled as I was headed at that car.
These habits are not controlling you. You wrap them around yourself and hold them tightly to you. Don't complain about the habits. They're not deeply ingrained. You've got a really tight hold on them. If you say they're deeply ingrained, it's like, well, what can I do?
Well, that was my next question.
Exactly. In that tone of voice, even, it would have come out of your mouth. And see, that would have been an invitation to me to validate it and say, oh, Michael. And I've talked to you like that before, haven't I? Let me give you a hug. No. Habits aren't deeply ingrained and you aren't controlled by them. In your fear, you hold them tightly about you and you use them to control everyone else so that you can feel safe. And if you know that, then you know that it's no harder than changing the habit, and then begin to engage in changing the habit, as I said earlier. You've got to let go of this fierce grip with which you're holding your costume on. And if everybody just got this one point and really got it, you would wake up. We could end the gathering right now. And you will all get it. And I will tell you as frequently as I need to, these simple little facts that are sufficient to wake you up until you do wake up.
Well, Raj, I just want to acknowledge you're such a blessing to us all, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here, as well as the opportunity to be here with all my brothers and sisters, who I just so much enjoy seeing them every month. It makes the trip so much easier.
From across the street.
I'm going to give the mic to somebody else so you can't pick on me anymore.
Well, I will have been a blessing to you and everyone else when you stop playing with the truth and really start daring to embody it. I accept your gratitude. I'm not meaning to demean your gratitude. I receive it. Thank you.
So to me, it feels like the step one is to just maintain constant awareness of what our mechanical processes are.
No, to maintain a constant willingness and invitation to God to speak to you and you listen. Oh, you can be kept busy for centuries looking at your mechanical processes. There are lots of costumes in the closet. You take care of one, another one will pop up. You want to break the habit of wearing costumes. The mechanics of how your mind works and the mechanics of things are part and parcel of the habit. You can be kept busy for another 50 lifetimes finding out about the mechanics. Don't waste your time. Go naked. Be the unabashed unself-conscious presence of God, whatever that might end up meaning. But you've got to dare to let it mean whatever it might mean, however it might make you look to all of the egos around you or to your own educated ego sense of how things really are.
When this incident happened, I had been 4 or 5 steps in mechanical process. In other words, I saw it happen. I began to get out of the car. Then I saw the people come. Good
Yes.
Samaritan. Okay. Then I saw the people come. Oh, it would be embarrassing for me to come over there and try and heal her. So I got back in the car. Then I'm going down the road. Oh, now I feel guilty that I didn't get out of the car. Then I finally said, what the hell is this all about? So it took that much time for me to say, what's the answer? And that's what I meant by how could I have ever re-perceived the situation at square one when in my current state it took me 5 moves down the road before I went, what was that about? Before I asked.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, you could say that the answer to that is you must learn how to engage the habit of not engaging habits.
But see, it was so automatic. It was so...
Of course.
I wasn't even aware of what I was doing until...
Of course. But that's just the characteristic of the costume you have on. But I've explained how to proceed in little ways all day long, every day, break the habit. The guidance for you to move here and the unfoldment of a way to do it was a divine means of beginning to break your habit. It threw you into new circumstances that caused you to either have to rethink everything or never think again but listen and yield to and allow and let in. Okay.
Thank you.
We will take a break. Okay. We have a hand in the back.
Good afternoon, Raj.
Good afternoon.
And I am very happy to be here. And this gathering has really been a big impact for me. And I'm listening as carefully as I can to what you're telling us about witnessing. And as you were talking to Michael, the bad habits that we all find ourselves enveloped with, I was also reflecting about joining and asking for help to override, in other words, disregard the bad habits or the conditioned responses that we have. And what came to mind were a couple of experiences I had in my life where seeing something horrible was about to happen, I asked for help and saw amazing results. The physical laws of the universe were suspended in order to facilitate my safety. And I'm wondering if this is the similar thing that happens when we suspend our opinions about what we think we're seeing and ask for help by witnessing to the one that looks like they need the help.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's the same result that happens. In other words, it's an energy thing, or I'm trying to get this clear in my mind.
It doesn't matter how it's accomplished.
Okay.
There really isn't any process to the undoing of an illusion, which is another way of saying there really is no process to the undoing of something that never happened or is not really about to happen. Do you see what I mean?
Okay, then let me get this, let me see it from this point of view. What we're experiencing...
Let me interrupt. Once you realize that the healing of a disease or the correcting of a problem is the uncovering of the the fact that what can't happen didn't happen, and what can't happen in the future. If that is clear, I'm sorry. This is me, Paul, saying I'm sorry. Just a moment now. I will come to it through the back door. I have talked before about the fact that there is no such thing as matter. And when I say matter, I'm talking about self-existent stuff, self-existent substance that has nothing to do with God. Self-existent substance that is capable of polarization, of having a positive and negative charge, that constitutes the building blocks of larger collections of positive and negative charges that you call form. And thus ending up with form that embodies polarities, in other words, life-affirming and death-affirming, an object that can save you or an object that can hurt you, and so on. It has a polarized function. There is no such thing as matter. I have said that all matter is energy, but it isn't even physical energy. It's the energy of spirit with a capital S. And I've also pointed out that the energy of spirit with a capital S is capital L, love. Love is the substance of all substance. Now, it's because everything you see is spirit that you can have what is called an instantaneous healing. Because the change in the appearance of what you've been calling matter doesn't have to abide by laws of matter, which is another way of saying laws of physics. You see? So, substance, and I'm speaking of spirit, love, is incapable of embodying conflict, whether you call it accident or whatever. If you are seeing conflict, you are seeing your own misperception of the only substance there is. And therefore you are seeing something that isn't happening, even though it seems very real to you. Therefore, when you said that in your experience it seemed as though the laws of physics were set aside, well, what you experienced was that there is no actual law of physics to be set aside or suffered from, because there is no matter